The warning came 3 seconds too late. Captain Sarah Chun watched the energy reading spike across her command console as the Perseverance drifted through the Kepler void, humanity's first deep space mining vessel to venture this far from Earth. The ship's hull groaned under the strange gravitational currents that made this region of space both valuable and deadly. Dark matter concentrations here were unlike anything in human-controlled space, promising energy resources that could power Earth's colonies for centuries. "Captain, I'm reading massive electromagnetic disturbances," reported Lieutenant Marcus Webb from the sensor station. His voice carried the tension they all felt. Multiple contacts approaching from the asteroid field. Sarah's fingers tightened on her command chair. The Perseverance carried 200 souls, miners, engineers, scientists, and security personnel who had volunteered for the 6-month expedition. They were explorers, not soldiers, but Sarah had served in the Colonial Defense Force before taking this assignment. She recognized predatory movement patterns when she saw them. "Shields up. All hands to stations," she ordered, her voice steady despite the ice forming in her stomach. "Communications, try to establish contact." The main view screen flickered as Communications Officer Diana Ross worked her controls. Static filled the bridge before clearing to reveal something that made several crew members gasp. The alien vessel was beautiful and terrible, a crystalline structure that seemed to bend light around itself, its surface shifting between colors that human eyes couldn't quite process. "This is Captain Sarah Chin of the Earth vessel Perseverance," she broadcast. "We are a peaceful mining expedition. Please identify yourself and state your intentions." The response came in perfect, cold English that somehow conveyed absolute contempt. "You are the humans. We are the Kethvar Dominion. You'll withdraw from this system immediately or face obliteration." Sarah felt her crew's eyes on her. First contact protocols demanded peaceful resolution, but the sensor readings showed 12 more Kethvar ships emerging from the asteroid field. Each one was larger than the Perseverance. "We're operating under Galactic salvage rights," Sarah replied, buying time while her mind raced through options. This system was unclaimed according to all star charts and treaty databases. The alien's laugh was like breaking glass. "Your primitive understanding amuses us. This system belongs to the Dominion. The energies you seek to harvest are sacred to our people. Your presence here is sacrilege." Dr. Elena Vasquez, the expedition's lead scientist, stepped forward from her station. "Captain, the energy reading suggests they're using some kind of exotic matter manipulation. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours." Sarah nodded grimly. The Perseverance was equipped with the best defensive systems humanity could provide, but they were miners and scientists, not warriors. Still, 200 human lives depended on her decisions. "We can negotiate," Sarah offered. "Perhaps we can reach an understanding that benefits both our species." "Understanding?" The Kethvar commander's voice grew colder. "You consume worlds, strip them bare, and move on like locusts. We have watched your species spread across the galaxy, leaving dead systems in your wake. There will be no negotiation." The first energy beam struck the Perseverance's starboard hull before Sarah could react. Alarm shrieked as the ship shuddered under the impact. Sparks flew from overloaded systems, and the lights flickered ominously. "Damage report." Sarah shouted over the chaos. "Hull breach on deck 7 through 9. Webb called out. "Emergency bulkheads are holding, but we've lost primary power to the mining arrays." Another beam struck them, this one targeting their engine section. The Perseverance lurched forward, her artificial gravity fluctuating wildly. Sarah gripped her chair as her stomach dropped, and her boots briefly left the deck. "Return fire," she ordered through clenched teeth. The ship's defensive systems were never meant for real combat, but they responded. Plasma cannons and missile pods fired in coordinated volleys, their projectiles streaking toward the nearest Kethvar vessel. The human weapon struck the alien ship's crystalline hull and simply dispersed. The energy scattered like light through a prism, causing no apparent damage. "Our weapons are useless," reported Security Chief James Morrison, his face pale with shock. "Their hull technology is absorbing everything we throw at them." A third beam struck their command section, and Sarah felt the deck plating buckle beneath her feet. Smoke filled the bridge as secondary systems failed. Through the chaos, She could see the Kevvar ships moving into attack formation. Their graceful forms belied their deadly intent. "All hands! Abandon ship!" Sarah ordered, her heart breaking as she spoke the words. "This is not a drill. Proceed to escape pods immediately." As her crew began their desperate evacuation, Sarah remained at her post, watching the beautiful, terrible alien ships close in for the kill. The Perseverance had been humanity's pride, their first real step into deep space. Now it would become their tomb, floating dead in the Kepler void as a monument to human ambition and alien cruelty. But as the escape pod began launching into darkness, Sarah Chin made a promise to herself and to the crew she was about to lose. If she survived this, the Kevvar Dominion would learn that humanity didn't give up easily, and they definitely didn't forget. 3 days later, Sarah Chin floated in the cramped confines of Escape Pod 7, watching her breath form small clouds in the recycled air. The pod's life support systems had been designed for 48 hours maximum, but she and 11 other survivors crammed inside had stretched it to 72 through careful rationing and sheer determination. Through the small porthole, the wreckage of the Perseverance drifted past like a steel graveyard. The Kevvar had been thorough in their destruction, reducing humanity's proudest vessel to twisted metal and frozen atmosphere. But they had made one crucial mistake. They had assumed all humans would die quickly in the void. "Captain, I'm picking up a signal," whispered communications specialist Tommy Park, his voice hoarse from dehydration. He had jury-rigged the pod's short-range transmitter to scan for other survivors. "It's weak, but it's definitely human." Sarah pushed herself toward the tiny communications console, her muscles cramping from days of zero gravity. "How many pods?" 7 confirmed, maybe 8. "But Captain..." Tommy's face was grim. "I'm also detecting Kevvar patrol ships. They're hunting the survivors." Through the porthole, Sarah could see the deadly ballet of predator and prey playing out in the darkness. Alien vessels moved between the debris field like sharks, their crystalline hulls reflecting starlight as they searched for human life signs. Occasionally, a brief flash would mark another escape pod's destruction. Dr. Elena Vasquez floated nearby, her scientific instruments somehow still functioning despite the pod's deteriorating conditions. "Sarah, I've been analyzing the Kevvar energy signatures. Their technology isn't just advanced. It's based on principles we don't understand. They're manipulating space-time itself. Can we use that information?" Sarah asked, though she already knew the answer would disappoint her. "Not with our current technology. But I've been thinking about their motivations. They called the system sacred, but my reading suggests something more. The dark matter concentrations here aren't natural, they're artificial. Someone or something created this energy field." Security Chief Morrison, who had somehow managed to squeeze his large frame into their overcrowded pod, spoke up from the corner. "Captain, we need to focus on survival. My tactical assessment is that we have maybe 6 hours before the Kevvar complete their sweep. After that, we're dead." Sarah closed her eyes, feeling the weight of command even in this desperate situation. Around her, 11 people looked to her for hope, for answers, for miracles she couldn't provide. The rational part of her mind said they should surrender, beg for mercy, hope the Kevvar had some concept of humanitarian treatment. But the part of her that had grown up reading about humanity's greatest moments, the explorers who sailed into unknown seas, the pioneers who crossed impossible frontiers, the soldiers who stood against overwhelming odds, that part refused to quit. "Tommy, can you boost our signal enough to reach the outer system?" The young communications specialist's eyes widened. "Maybe, but it would burn out our power cells. We'd have life support for maybe 2 hours after that." "Do it. Send this message on all human frequencies." Sarah took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts. "This is Captain Sarah Chin of the mining vessel Perseverance, broadcasting from the Kepler void. We have been attacked by the Kevvar Dominion. Our ship is destroyed, our crew scattered. But I want the record to show that humanity came here in peace, seeking only to build a better future for our people." She paused, watching the alien patrol ships continue their methodical hunt. The Kevvar showed us no mercy, no opportunity for negotiation. They destroyed a civilian vessel and are now executing survivors. If anyone receives this message, know that humanity will not forget this act. We will return, and when we do, we will be ready. Tommy worked frantically at his improvised transmitter. Signals going out now, Captain. Maximum power. The pod's lights dimmed immediately as power flowed to the communications array. In the distance, Sarah could see a Kevvar patrol ship changing course, its sensors detecting their transmission. The alien vessel moved with predatory grace, its crystalline hull beginning to glow with the telltale energy buildup that preceded their devastating weapons. Incoming. Morrison reported unnecessarily. They could all see the enemy ship approaching. But as death closed in, something unexpected happened. Another signal burst across their communication system, not human, but not Kevvar either. The transmission was brief, just a few seconds of complex mathematical patterns that made Elena gasp in recognition. "Those are hyperspace coordinates," she whispered. "Someone just gave us a jump point." Before Sarah could process this information fully, space around their pod began to distort. Reality twisted like liquid glass, and suddenly they were no longer in the Kepler void. The alien patrol ship, the debris field, the deadly hunt, all of it vanished, replaced by the blue-white glow of a hyperspace tunnel. What the hell just happened? Morrison demanded, his warrior's instincts struggling with the impossible. Elena's instruments were going crazy, displaying readings that shouldn't have been possible. Someone with technology far beyond either humans or Kevvar just saved our lives. But more importantly, they wanted us to escape. They wanted us to carry our message home. As the escape pod hurtled through hyperspace toward human space, Sarah stared out at the swirling energies that surrounded them. Whoever their mysterious benefactor was, they had given humanity something precious. Time. Time to warn Earth. Time to prepare. Time to show the Kevvar that attacking innocent humans carried consequences they couldn't imagine. The war had begun with the destruction of the Perseverance, but would end when humanity showed the galaxy exactly what happened to those who underestimated the species that had crawled up from a small blue world to claim the stars. Admiral Rebecca Harrison stood before the emergency session of the United Earth Council, her uniform crisp despite having been roused from sleep 3 hours earlier. The council chamber buzzed with nervous energy as representatives from every human colony watched the holographic display showing Captain Chen's final transmission from the Kepler void. "The Kevvar Dominion has committed an act of war against a civilian vessel," Harrison declared, her voice cutting through the murmur of concerned voices. 200 human lives were lost, and survivors are being systematically hunted down like animals. Council President Martinez leaned forward from his seat. "Admiral, our intelligence suggests the Kevvar possess technology centuries ahead of our own. Military engagement will be suicide. With respect, sir, military engagement has already begun." They fired the first shot. Harrison activated another hologram, showing the tactical analysis her staff had prepared during the night. "But you're right about their technological advantage. A conventional response would be exactly what they expect, and exactly what would fail." Dr. James Reeves, head of Earth's Advanced Weapons Division, stood from his seat in the gallery. "Admiral, I've been analyzing the sensor data from the Perseverance. The Kevvar energy manipulation technology operates on principles we're only beginning to understand. However, their apparent mastery may also be their weakness." "Explain," Harrison ordered. "They've achieved technological perfection in their specialized areas, but perfection breeds predictability. Their weapons, their shields, their tactics, all are based on established patterns that assume enemy technology will follow certain parameters. Human technology doesn't follow those parameters because we're still figuring things out." Representative Sarah Kim from the Mars colonies spoke up. "Are you suggesting we fight advanced aliens with inferior weapons?" Dr. Reeves smiled grimly. "I'm suggesting we fight them with weapons they can't understand, because we don't fully understand them ourselves. Crude, unpredictable, and absolutely human." Admiral Harrison felt a spark of hope ignite in her chest. "What did you have in mind, Doctor?" "The Perseverance carried mining charges designed to break apart asteroids. Imagine those same charges, but scaled up 1,000-fold and delivered via ships they'll never see coming." The council chamber erupted in discussion, but Harrison raised her hand for silence. The Kevvar made their position clear. They view humans as locusts to be exterminated. We can't negotiate with genocide. She paused, letting her words sink in. But we can make it extremely expensive. Over the next 6 hours, humanity's greatest minds worked with desperate efficiency. Military strategists collaborated with mining engineers, while physicists consulted with deep space navigators. The plan that emerged was audacious, probably suicidal, and absolutely human in its creative insanity. The key lay in humanity's newest experimental technology, quantum tunneling drives. Developed for deep space exploration, they allowed ships to essentially teleport short distances by briefly existing in multiple locations simultaneously. The technology was unreliable, dangerous, and completely outside the Kethvar's experience. Captain Maria Santos, commander of the experimental vessel Retribution, studied the mission parameters with growing amazement. You want me to quantum tunnel a converted asteroid mining ship directly into their home system? Not just any asteroid mining ship, Harrison replied. One carrying enough antimatter to sterilize a small moon, delivered via a drive system that our own engineers barely understand. Santos was quiet for a long moment. How many of these suicide missions are you planning? 12 ships, 12 different Kethvar systems. If they want to hunt humans for sport, they're about to learn that humans hunt back. Harrison's expression was stone. But Maria, these aren't suicide missions. Each ship will be equipped with emergency quantum beacons. If you can deliver your payload and survive the first 30 seconds, the beacon will pull you back to human space. And if the beacon fails? Harrison met her gaze steadily. Then you make sure the Kethvar remember the Perseverance. As the Retribution and her sister ships prepared for launch, word of the plan spread through human space like wildfire. Colony worlds that had been preparing for evacuation instead began manufacturing weapons. Mining corporations retooled their equipment for war. Scientists who had never considered military applications suddenly found themselves designing new ways to kill. The transformation was remarkable and terrifying. Humanity had been a peaceful species for generations, focused on exploration and discovery. But the destruction of the Perseverance had awakened something primal, something that remembered the evolutionary gauntlet their ancestors had run to dominate Earth. In the Kepler system, the Kethvar continued their methodical hunt for human survivors, unaware that their actions had fundamentally changed the galactic balance of power. They had attacked humans expecting easy prey. Instead, they had created an enemy that would follow them to the end of the galaxy for revenge. Admiral Harrison watched the 12 ships disappear into quantum tunnels, each one carrying humanity's fury toward Kethvar space. The aliens had wanted to demonstrate their superiority by destroying a single human vessel. They were about to learn that some lessons came with an extremely high price tag, and humanity had just decided to make a withdrawal from the Kethvar account. The quantum tunnel collapsed around the Retribution, like a soap bubble bursting, and Captain Maria Santos found herself staring at the heart of the Kethvar Dominion. The Zephyr system stretched before her, 7 worlds orbiting a binary star system, each one covering the crystalline cities that marked advanced Kethvar civilization. "Holy Mother of God," whispered her navigator, Lieutenant Chin Park. "There must be billions of them." Santos activated her ship's passive sensors, gathering intelligence even as she prepared for what might be humanity's final gesture of defiance. The modified mining vessel carried enough antimatter to crack a planet's crust, but reaching their target would require surviving the most heavily defended system in known space. "Captain, I'm reading massive energy signatures throughout the system," reported her tactical officer. "Defense platforms, patrol fleets, orbital weapons. This isn't just their capital, it's a fortress." Santos nodded grimly. The plan had always been desperate, but seeing the Kethvar defenses firsthand made it seem utterly impossible. Still, she had volunteered for this mission, knowing the odds. The faces of the Perseverance crew, including her own sister who had been serving as a mining engineer, burned in her memory. "Begin approach to the primary world," she ordered. "All stealth systems active." The Retribution was small compared to the Kethvar vessels that patrolled the system, and her hull had been coated with experimental metamaterials designed to scatter sensor beams. For precious minutes, they slipped through the outer defenses undetected, getting closer to their target with each passing second. But their luck couldn't last forever. "Captain, we're being scanned," Park reported. "Something just painted us with a focused energy beam." On the main screen, a Kevvar interceptor emerged from behind one of the system's moons, its crystalline hull blazing with weapons fire. The energy beams that had destroyed the Perseverance streaked toward the human ship, but Santos was ready. "Emergency quantum jump random vector," she shouted. The Retribution flickered out of normal space for a fraction of a second, reappearing several thousand kilometers away as the Kevvar weapons passed harmlessly through empty space. The alien pilot's confusion was almost palpable as his target simply vanished and rematerialized elsewhere. "That's impossible," came a transmission in accented English. "Your primitive technology cannot manipulate quantum states." Santos smiled coldly. "Surprise, you crystalline bastard." More Kevvar ships converged on their position as alarms wailed throughout the system. Santos ordered another quantum jump, then another, using humanity's unpredictable technology to dance between enemy formations. Each jump brought them closer to Primary World, closer to the massive orbital platform that served as the Dominion Central Command facility. "Captain, quantum drive is overheating," reported her engineer. "We can maybe manage 3 more jumps before the whole system fails." Santos studied the tactical display, calculating distances and vectors. 3 jumps would be enough to reach the orbital platform, but not enough to escape afterward. She had known this moment would come, the moment when survival became secondary to the mission. "All hands, prepare for final approach," she announced over the ship's intercom. "We're going to show these aliens what humans do to bullies." The next quantum jump brought them directly alongside the Kevvar command platform, a massive structure that dwarfed even Earth's largest space stations. Weapons fire erupted from every surface as the alien defenders realized what was happening. But Santos had already activated the antimatter charges. 30 seconds to detonation, her tactical officer reported, his voice steady despite knowing they were about to die. But as the seconds ticked down, something unexpected happened. Space around the Retribution began to distort, and suddenly they were somewhere else entirely, pulled through a hyperspace tunnel identical to the one that had saved the Perseverance survivors. "What the hell?" Santos gasped, watching through her viewports as the Kevvar system receded into the distance. Behind them, a brilliant flash marked the detonation of their antimatter payload, and she could only hope it found its target. A new voice filled their communication system, speaking in heavily accented English. "Human vessel, you have performed admirably. We are the Takari Collective, and we have been waiting for your species to demonstrate your true nature." On the main screen, an alien face appeared, reptilian features with intelligent golden eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom. The Kevvar have been the galaxy's dominant power for 3,000 years. They have crushed 17 different species, claiming their territories and enslaving their populations. But they made a critical error in attacking your people. Santos found her voice. "What error?" The Takari's expression might have been a smile. "They assumed you respond logically, seek negotiation, behave predictably. Instead, you did something no other species has ever attempted. You declared war on the Dominion, using weapons they had never encountered, tactics they could not predict, and a level of determination that defies rational analysis." Through their rear sensors, Santos could see additional flashes throughout Kevvar space as her fellow captains delivered their own payloads. 11 other human ships were making their presence known in the most dramatic way possible. "Why are you helping us?" Santos asked. "Because in 37 years of warfare, no species has ever made the Kevvar afraid. Until today." The Takari's golden eyes gleamed. "Your people have just proven that the Dominion can bleed. That changes everything." As the Retribution continued its journey through hyperspace, Santos realized that humanity had accomplished more than revenge. They had started a revolution. Across the galaxy, oppressed species would hear about 12 human ships that had struck at the heart of Kevvar power and lived to tell about it. The war was far from over, but the balance had shifted. Humanity had shown the galaxy that some species were too stubborn to stay conquered. 6 months after the simultaneous strikes on Kevvar space, Captain Saracen stood on the bridge of the new Perseverance, watching as the largest fleet in human history emerged from quantum tunnels throughout the Kepler system. The ship that bore her original vessel's name was no ordinary mining vessel. It was a testament to humanity's capacity for transformation when pushed beyond all reasonable limits. Fleet status report, she ordered, though she could see the results herself on the tactical display. 300 ships, each one incorporating the hard-won lessons of the past months. Some were converted mining vessels like her own, bristling with antimatter charges and quantum jump drives. Others were purpose-built warships, designed by engineers who had studied every piece of Kethvar technology they could acquire. "All ships reporting ready, Captain," replied her new tactical officer, Lieutenant Rebecca Santos, sister to the captain who had led the strike on the Dominion capital. Takari support vessels are in position, and the Zephyrian combat wings are standing by. Chin nodded, still amazed by the turn of events. The successful strikes on Kethvar worlds had indeed triggered the galactic revolution that Takari had predicted. 7 different species had openly declared war on the Dominion, while dozens more provided covert support to the human-led alliance. The galaxy's oppressive finally found their voice, and it spoke with distinctly human accent. Communications, open a channel to the Kethvar forces. The main screen flickered to life, revealing the familiar crystalline ships that had haunted Chen's nightmares for months. But something was different now. Where once the Kethvar had projected absolute confidence, now there was uncertainty in their formations, hesitation in their movements. The same cold voice that had condemned the original Perseverance filled the bridge. "Human vessel, you have violated sacred space for the final time. The Dominion fleet will cleanse the system of your presence." Chen smiled, feeling the weight of every lost crew member, every destroyed human settlement, every act of Kethvar arrogance that had brought them to this moment. "This is Captain Saracen, speaking for the free peoples of the galaxy. You attacked a peaceful mining expedition. You hunted down survivors. You declared war on humanity." She paused, letting her words carry across space. "We're here to finish what you started." The Kethvar commander's laugh was less confident than before. "Your pathetic fleet cannot stand against Dominion power. We have ruled this galaxy for 3 millennia. You are insects challenging the storm." "Funny thing about insects," Chin replied. "Sometimes they swarm." She cut the transmission and activated the fleet-wide command channel. "All ships, this is Chun. 6 months ago, these bastards murdered 200 humans in cold blood. They thought we would run, hide, beg for mercy. Instead, we built the largest alliance in galactic history and came back for them. Today, we teach the Dominion, the most important lesson in human culture. We don't start fights, but we damn sure finish them." The battle began with a coordinated quantum jump that brought 300 human ships directly into the heart of the Kethvar formation. The aliens' perfect tactical formation shattered as enemy vessels materialized inside their defensive perimeter, antimatter charges detonating against crystalline hulls that had never been designed to handle such close-range brutality. But the Kethvar were still a formidable enemy. Their energy weapons carved through human shields, and their superior technology began to tell as the initial surprise wore off. Chun watched her fleet take devastating casualties. Each lost another face she would remember for the rest of her life. Then the Takari entered the battle, their bio-ships swarming around Kethvar vessels, like antibodies attacking infection. Zephyrian fighters danced between the larger ships, their pilots displaying the kind of suicidal courage that humans had taught the galaxy to respect. The battle became a 3-dimensional maze of energy beams, explosions, and impossible maneuvers. "Captain, Kethvar command ship is powering up their main weapon," Santos reported. "Energy readings are off the charts." Chin studied the massive vessel at the center of the enemy formation. Intelligence suggested it carried a planet-killer weapon, something that could sterilize entire worlds. She couldn't let it fire. "All ships, concentrate fire on the command vessel," she ordered. "Everything we have." The human fleet responded with desperate fury, pouring antimatter charges and exotic weapons into the Kethvar flagship. The alien vessel shields held for long seconds, but human persistence finally paid off. The crystalline hull cracked, then shattered, and the explosion lit up the system like a second sun. With their command ship destroyed, the Kefvar formation began to collapse. Some vessels fled toward the edge of the system, while others continued fighting with the desperate fury of a cornered predator. But the momentum had shifted decisively. As the last Kefvar ship either fled or exploded, Chen found herself staring at something that would have seemed impossible 6 months earlier, a human victory over the galaxy's greatest power. Around her, the bridge crew cheered, but she felt only exhaustion and the weight of all the lives this war had cost. Captain called her communications officer. I'm receiving transmissions from across the galaxy. The hegemony worlds are declaring independence. The Altair colonies are expelling Kefvar governors. It's happening everywhere. Chen nodded slowly. The Dominion hadn't just lost a battle. They had lost their aura of invincibility. Across the galaxy, oppressed species were rising up, inspired by the example of humans who refused to accept defeat. Set course for home, she ordered quietly. We have a report to make. As the new Perseverance turned toward human space, Chen thought about the original mining expedition that had started this war. Captain Sarah Chun and her crew had sought only to build a better future for humanity. Instead, they had sparked a rebellion that would reshape the galaxy. The Kefvar had been right about one thing. Humans were indeed like locusts, but they had failed to understand that sometimes the swarm was exactly what the galaxy needed.